Welcome back to the Aviation Sales and Marketing Executive Brief. Today we're going to go through an example campaign for Phase 1. This is a great campaign to build your list and to introduce your product to a whole new group of people. So I'm Paula Williams.
And I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is to
help you guys sell more stuff.
Exactly, help sell more products and services in the aviation industry. So the reason we do campaigns is because random acts of marketing are a waste of your time and money, and they also make your company look less professional than it could. And it's really important these days to be very careful about how we spend our time, money, and reputation to get new customers and make a good first impression. So we're still in Phase 1. We've talked about Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 of our long cycle marketing system. Phase 1, the details you can see here, and we're going to talk about several of these squares. The last two videos we talked about just one at a time, and now we're actually going to put things together in a way that makes sense. So we're going to use a postcard, we're going to use a call to action, we're going to use a decision, and then we're going to use one follow-up action from that point. So we'll show you that whole process, basically getting you to your first contact with the customer. So we talked about advertising methods, and we're going to choose postcards for good reasons. Obviously, this is the first contact, the first time that somebody's ever going to hear about you. So you want to use a high credibility method, or at least a reasonable credibility method. But you also don't want to spend a lot of money. So we had talked about how direct mail is one of the most versatile advertising methods because it does have a higher credibility than just materials on the web or social media. But on the other hand, it has a lot less cost and a lot more flexibility than print ads or trade shows, because you could do a direct mail campaign, put it together, and send it out in a matter of days or weeks, depending on how fast your printer is.
It's also the most legal method for first contact.
Exactly. It's almost impossible to do an email first contact nowadays without getting into some dicey legal territory, given Canada's CAN-SPAM legislation and the United States CAN-SPAM legislation. Unless someone has specifically requested information from your company, it's very hard to do an email campaign unless you're using someone else's list or something like that. So, and there are some very strict rules about that as well. So lots of good reasons to use postcards, and we'll tell you more about why we love them. It's a great first contact method with a brand new prospect. It makes a good first impression. It has more credibility than online materials. We talked about that. Has less cost and more flexibility than other printed media. There's a lot of printers that can create some very high quality postcards for you for not a huge amount of money, and you can do small print runs nowadays because of some new printing technology that makes it ideal for aviation, because a lot of times we have those small lists, very targeted lists, and that's really what we like to see. The last thing is no envelopes. We love that because a lot of people, when they're getting mail from you for the first time, they're not even going to open it if they don't know who you are, unless there's something very arresting about that particular piece of mail. So postcards have the opportunity to have, something very visually attractive. Your headline's on the outside. They don't have to open an envelope. You don't have to pay for an envelope, which is also a plus. And you can mail at postcard rates, although most of the postcards that we send are actually double-sized postcards because they include more information, and they're about the same postage as a first-class letter. So the 44 cents these days, or whatever it is. So, all right. So a campaign, as you know, has three parts, right? A list, an offer, and a presentation. Now, in the last video, we talked about calls to action, and we did a whole video pretty much on the offer, which is the call to action. So today we're going to talk about the other two elements, the list and the presentation. So to start with the list, where do I get a list? There are really three ways to do it. You can buy it, you can build it, or you can borrow it. So if you're going to buy it, here are some options. Airpack, JetNet, a lot of the associations also NARA, PAMA, and so on. We could go on for days about what the associations are, and they will give you, in some cases, you can buy a set of mailing labels for all of their members, or you can buy a list rental from them, which lets you send one piece of mail, and often they'll have to preview that piece of mail and make sure it's not spammy or something that they don't want going to their members. Another option is every door direct mail. If you are doing like a charter service or something like that that is of general interest to people in a certain area, you could get a list of all of the highest income zip codes or sub-zip codes in your area and do an every door direct mail, less than first class postage. So, that's an option. Or if you have a flight school and you want to mail to the high-end folks in a particular area, you can do every door direct mail, which is through the Postal Service.
But when you're renting a list, when you do get those people that respond, you need to make sure, one, that your call to action is such that they will respond, and two, you have to capture that information and get back to them immediately.
Exactly. So that's true no matter how you get your list. The second way is to build it. And, that's really through search engine optimization or social media, or if you go to a trade show and collect cards, with the intention of sending prospecting materials. Of course, we don't consider that pure prospecting because you've already had a contact with that person at your trade show. So then that would be a follow-up. So the ways to do this the first time would be search engine optimization, having some kind of an offer call to action that you put, that you optimize or use pay-per-click ads or social media ads or, something of that sort. Another way is to borrow a list, and we think this could be done a lot more often than it's being done in the aviation industry because there's a lot of non-competing businesses that have complementary demographics of customers. And you could do joint marketing projects where you send a postcard to their list, they send a postcard to your list, or you could do an endorsed mailing where you say, we know this, you can put together a joint postcard saying here's a charter service with a limousine service, or a aircraft sales with aircraft maintenance together, other kinds of things where you're reaching to the same group of people with a combined service that makes it more attractive to everyone. So 3 ways to obtain a list, and then what do you want to do with that list? Of course, you want a great call to action, and we talked about that in the last video. And then the last thing, of course, is a presentation. So we'll show you an example of a presentation on a postcard. So here we have a postcard. Of course, we have a photograph on the front of the postcard, and we have a headline. And the headline has to be something that is, again, specific to this particular group of people. What are they interested in doing? A flight school would be interested in helping their students. So this would be something that would be attractive to them. You want something that's very specific. And there are 4 U's of a great headline. Do you remember those? Ultra specific, unique. I don't remember them. Oh, well, we'll cut that part out. So great headline. And then the next thing is you also want your call to action and enough information to make sure that people know that you understand their situation and their circumstances. So, in this case, we offer some fairly specific information. We know that flight schools are having questions and issues with the ATP CTP requirements. We have an organization that has a way to help them deal with that. We give some very specific contact information, and if you can use a person's name and phone number, that makes it more attractive because they know exactly who they're going to be talking to. And in this case, Captain David Santo, this sounds like somebody that knows something about this because they're working for an airline. So, all of that makes it a good presentation. Also, you have your call to action in 2 places. In this case, we're also offering a webinar and a panel discussion as a call to action. We used a sticker because notice this postcard doesn't have a date on it. What that does is it lets us do a larger print run of postcards that we know we're going to be using a lot. But then if we do like a quarterly presentation or something like that, we can put a dated sticker on there that will make it more urgent and more specific without spending more money. So that really helps our presentation without adding to our cost. And here's another postcard. Again, you want to really let the prospect see himself or identify himself. In this case, we asked some questions. Do you appreciate how hard it is to earn a customer's trust? Hopefully that will hit somebody the right way, and that's exactly the sort of person that we want to be talking to. Do you know how important it is to maintain a full pipeline of prospects and referrals? The reason we wrote this way is because we want people who have a clue, what a pipeline is. So this really kind of identifies or self-identifies the ideal prospect for us. Do yourself a favor, download this today, lock yourself in your office, and read the whole thing before you place another ad, book another trade show, or pick up the phone. So again, very specific to a specific group of people. Somebody who doesn't have this particular set of problems is going to just throw this in the garbage, and that's exactly what we want them to do, because we want to be working with people who have this specific set of issues. All right, so now what? We have had somebody respond to our postcard, in this case. They responded to our call to action. We've done some sort of a thank you sequence, which is basically an email or something of that sort. And then, of course, we can make a decision and decide what to do next. And we'll show you some of those options. So here, we decide, is this someone that we really want to be doing business with? Is it someone who's maybe on a top 10 list that we have or something like that? And if that's the case, we can split and go one of two directions. If they're on a top 10 list, then we maybe want to spend $15 or $20 and send them a very nice information package with CDs, DVDs, cookies, glossy materials, whatever it is that we think is going to convince them to take the next step in our purchase process. If they are not somebody that seems to be qualified, maybe they are someone that's outside of our service area or something like that, then all we do is we send them a personalized postcard or a thank you note or something like that. And we still maintain that relationship, but we're adjusting our costs based on how qualified that person might be.
And if they qualify themselves even further, then we will send them the package as well.
Exactly, and take the next step, because you can always bump somebody up and say, okay, now this person is one of our top 10 most wanted because we learned some new information that we didn't know before. Right, and then in the next video, we're going to be talking about that initial sales call. But for now, I think that's probably a pretty good start. Postcards are a great first campaign. We talked about how to buy, build, or borrow a great list. We talked about how to create a great offer, and a little bit in this one and more in the last CD or the last video. We talked about how to design a great postcard. Again, we want it to be visually arresting, and we want to have a fantastic headline. And we want to deliver and measure results. So every step in the process, we want to see how many did we send, how many responses did we get, did we have a trackable call to action, and all of those things. So once again, other programs this month, lots more coming down the pipe in small pieces that are easy to access individually. Thank you for joining us, and we are getting better at doing these more concisely.
Here's one that's under 15 minutes, just. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later.